Well, think about how many versions of me that you've met.
I mean a lot because that was the line shapewear version in college. Yep, I'm talking about it. That was the club girdle.
Oh my gosh. No one asked you that much detail.
You asked me a question, so I'll throw it out there. Yo, what's good, everybody? It's Phillip and Krystin here with another episode of Naptime and Nuptials, where it all goes down when the kids go down.
Yay.
And I guess you guys can see who won the slogan battle for all the ones who are our day ones out there.
Yep, I won.
So we're back with another episode, and we're going to jump right in. So what you got going on today?
Okay, so we're all here. Naturally, if you're here, I would imagine that you're like us. And you are constantly striving and seeking and learning more and more so that you can have a great marriage. But it's really easy to fall into some really bad habits, right, Phillip?
I don't have any bad habits.
Well, for me, at least.
Talk about yourself, baby.
I'll speak for myself.
Talk about yourself. Come on with it.
It's really easy to fall into some bad habits. So today, that's what we want to talk about, since we all want to get better, right?
We're going to talk about your bad habits. I love it. Let's do it.
So we're going to talk about the 4 habits that are keeping you from having the marriage you desire.
Let's go. What's number 1?
So the first thing, and I will say, y'all, I'm preaching to myself. This is my own personal.
I told y'all these are her habits. It is what it is.
This is probably one of my biggest struggles, and I'll explain why. But it's procrastination. Phillip, how do you feel about procrastination?
I think that some people procrastinate.
Yeah. So anyway.
Some people in this room that aren't me.
Procrastination is a habit that can definitely keep you from having the marriage you desire.
I can see that, yeah.
So I saw this quote. It's been floating around social media for a couple of weeks.
You spend a lot of time on. You see a lot of stuff on social media.
Yeah, I do. But it's been floating around for a couple of years. But in the last couple of weeks, I've been seeing it more and more.
No, you just said weeks, and then I said you'd be on social media, and you changed it to years. Don't be lying. Don't be lying to the folks.
Well, so the quote is, and I don't know who exactly said it. I'm going to see if I can find it for you guys. But the quote says that procrastination is the arrogant assumption that God will give you tomorrow to do what he told you to do today.
Wait, say that again. Slow it down for me. Slow it down.
I'll slow it down.
I'm trying to absorb it.
The quote says that procrastination is the arrogant assumption that God will give you tomorrow to do what he told you to do today. So when you procrastinate...
We can just stop talking right there, boy. That's a word there.
But when you procrastinate, you know, like if God has called you to do something and you just don't do it or you wait, you're just assuming that you'll have tomorrow to do it, that you have more time. And we're not promised more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that saying? Like tomorrow never comes. Like it's always another tomorrow. Like tomorrow's going to be tomorrow for tomorrow. No?
I bet you that's somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's somewhere.
But anyway, okay, so yeah, it affects your life, it affects your purpose, but it also affects your marriage. And I know for us, like, that has been something that we've had to work on because Phillip is like a go-getter. Like, if he says he's going to do it, he does it. Like, I don't know. You can put a clock to it if he says he's going to do it. And I'm going to do it.
No.
I'm going to do it.
No.
The timing may not be as
that means you're not going to do it. That means you're not going to do it.
Like,
that just means you're not going to do it.
But it's coming. And so for us, that's been a struggle. So, Phillip, since you're the person who thinks that I procrastinate.
I never, wait a minute. I never said anything about you. This was your number one. You said that this was a habit that you struggle with. I didn't say that.
I want you to tell us how procrastination has affected our marriage. No judgment. I don't want
to talk about specifics. I don't really want to get into specifics.
You can give us some specifics.
I mean, I can really see how, we always talk about this, but we hear of couples that have been married like 20 years and then they get a divorce. And you're like, what happened? But I think one aspect of procrastination, you're like, I don't necessarily, the prioritization aspect, I don't necessarily prioritize what Phillip is asking me to do or what needs to be done. What's the most important thing to do right now? But there's another aspect of procrastination where, in my mind, that says that we're going to do this after the kids or after the something or after we have the money and all these different things. And you kind of push everything down the road. And you end up, and you're like, wow,
we didn't do
any of that stuff, and I don't even know this person anymore.
Yeah.
So that's when I hear about procrastination in marriage as a habit, a bad habit. It kind of skew that way. Mm-hmm. And, really just making sure that you take the moments and the days that you have now to do what you can. Like, we're always waiting for that big thing. But no, we can just do what we can right now. It don't have to be a big thing. And I think we planning to talk about that a little more deeper in another episode.
I think you made a good point, though. You kind of glossed past that. But you mentioned priorities. Yeah. And I think that might be the biggest thing for you and for us. Like procrastination tells me or tells Phillip or tells your spouse that what you desire or what you want or what you ask of them is not necessarily a priority. And I think that priorities are what kill, like misplaced priorities can kill a marriage. And it starts small, like, hey, I asked you to take the trash out and you didn't, or I asked you to pick up the kids at this time and then you flaked or whatever. But those, you say about the little foxes, you always say the little foxes.
The little foxes destroy the vine.
Yeah, the little foxes destroy the vine. It takes sometimes it's those tiny things, they build up. And you look around and your marriage is just falling apart. So yeah. So I think that's a big one. Definitely procrastination and priorities. We can put them together.
Okay, so you're looking at procrastination from the prioritization standpoint.
Well, it can be both, like prioritization,
it can be both,
and also just
just waiting.
This is not
waiting for tomorrow that never comes.
This is not important to me now. It can wait. Well, can it?
And that's kind of dangerous. Like, and we're spending a lot of time here. We're gonna move forward, but that's kind of dangerous too. Like, essentially, procrastination. What you just said is like, it's not important to me right now.
Yeah.
Well, what does that convey to your spouse if nothing you ask them to do is important to them right then?
And if it's important to you now, then it should be important to me now. Yeah. And that's something that I'm working on. We're working on, like we said, everything that we talked to you guys about, it's pretty much something that we are dealing with or dealt with. We. So, but yeah. So that's a big one. We want to make sure that you are not procrastinating in your marriage.
Yeah. Yep. So number 2. So that's the number 1 habit. Number 2 habit that we came with is being inconsiderate. Tell me about that.
You tell me about it.
So I'm going to say I do consider myself a fairly considerate person. However, there are instances when I'm not as considerate, And so, like Kristen's going to tell. I never said I was perfect. Never said I was perfect. Because only one man is perfect, and his name is Jesus.
This is true. Preach for us.
Jesus. You heard that?
I did.
Jesus. Okay, anyway, my bad. We back. But the being inconsiderate part, I think it kind of really can tie into the procrastination piece.
Yeah.
Where I am doing my best to prioritize or to think about or consider you above myself in moments. So one thing that Kristen is always, I don't want to say fussing, but kind of fussing about is me putting things inside of the hamper. I mean, next to the hamper is just as close as inside the hamper.
What is the point of the hamper being there?
I don't know what the point of the hamper is. I personally don't know if the hamper is necessary. I'll be honest with you.
Well, one thing that I've learned in that is that, even if he is being inconsiderate, I know that there's no, malicious intent.
Oh, I got one. Yeah. I got an inconsiderate one. Kristen, and there are people who feel a certain type of way about this, but Kristen will bring the car home on empty. I mean, she will ride the gas light.
Listen, if I can get up these hills, I know how far my car can go.
No, why are you even playing with fire? Because who are you going to call when the car runs out of gas?
AAA. No, I'm going to call you.
You're going to call me, and then I'm going to call AAA. Like, did you call AAA? I don't know. What am I supposed to call?
What's the number? Well, anyway. Okay. So I get it, because to you, you're not considering the fact that if you run out of gas, it's my problem.
It's all of our problems, but yes. And not necessarily considering the fact that you're gonna be kind of moving quickly to the next place tomorrow or the next place you go. You're not gonna have time to stop and get gas.
This is true.
So you probably should stop and get gas now. But anyway, as you can see, we have instances where we aren't as considerate of the others, and that can become. If it becomes a habit, that can be very detrimental.
And that's the entire point. Like, once you let these little things, we're not saying, I'll never have another inconsiderate moment. Oh, I'll never procrastinate again. But in your marriage, you got to learn how to make those things that are important to your spouse a priority.
Yeah.
And I think, like, in consideration, like, no one wants to be not considered. Like,
yeah,
it really means, like, I think a synonym for inconsiderate is almost ignoring, like, ignored. Like, it can come across over time if it becomes something that's, like, habitual. It's like being ignored. Like, my desires aren't met because I know, like, I've told you that this is important to me. I've told you that I don't like when you drive around on E. I've told you that I don't like when there are clothes everywhere and I'm putting strategic hampers around.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just keeps happening.
I always wonder where those hampers come from. I'm like, why did the kids put the hamper here? It's such a strange place.
But, like, it can start to feel like I'm being ignored or you're being ignored.
Yeah.
And so I think in marriage, you know, it just goes, like, marriage is like it's the deepest relationship you can get. So, you know, like, at work, you may come across inconsiderate people. You're like, I'm fine, she's just inconsiderate. But when it's your spouse, it hits different.
You can't escape.
No, you can't escape. And we spend a ton of time together.
Oh, joy.
Probably more than most people.
Yes, more.
So
more than most.
I think for us, we have had to lean into, like, really just considering the other person more because, like, you don't get 8 hours at a building. Phil works from home. But we don't get 8 hours away, you know, an hour commute to and from work to, like, decompress. Like, we're always around each other. So we've had to learn how to really, really mesh our worlds. Imagine when we first got married, we thought, remember how it felt like trying to put our worlds together? And now it's like times 100. So I just think as you grow in your marriage, and, like, I just look at couples who've been married like 50 years. And I feel like the common thread is that they, like, talk about how, you know, in your love, you just learn to grow with that person and, like, anticipate their needs and know their, like, icks. And you just learn to love around and through it. So
and pick your battles.
Yeah, pick your battles.
The hamper isn't one. That's not a good battle.
No, I'm not. I will not pick the hamper battle. I will say that you have definitely stepped up to the plate when it comes to the dirty socks.
I wish I could give you the same kudos on gas, but it's still a work in progress.
It's still a work in progress. It is. I'm getting better, though.
Yeah. All right. So that's number 2. Number 1, procrastination. Number 2 is being inconsiderate. Number 3 is...
It's going to be loving your spouse the wrong way.
Tell me more about that.
I'm going to sing you a song.
Don't sing me a song.
Okay. Because there's a right way to love somebody.
Oh.
No, but there is a wrong, like you asked, like, there is a wrong way to love somebody. And if you're loving somebody in a way where they don't receive love, that's going to be the wrong way. I'm just going to let you know.
Do you think people actually do that, though?
I think so. I'm not big on personality tests, personality profiles. Phillip knows that. I'm like, it's just another way to label us. And I don't like to be labeled. I'm a free bird. But
I wouldn't categorize you as a free bird.
I will say that most people, I do, and Phillip does too, have an obvious love language. And I think when you're married to somebody, learning their love language or the way that they can receive love is really, really important because we are opposites in a lot of ways, personality-wise. Like, definitely have a lot of shared values, thank God. Because if we didn't, I don't know what we would do.
Wouldn't have gotten married.
Oh, yeah.
There are lots of other available people out there.
This is true, but people get married to
not that I'm looking.
People get married to people with opposite values all the time, so that's kind of irrelevant.
If both of you are the same, one of you is not needed.
This is true. But when you marry somebody, I feel like it's your job to learn that person. Yeah. Like, I want to, if I'm going to be married to you for the next 60 years.
It's a long time.
I've got to learn you.
That would help.
Yeah, I've got to learn you.
I think one of the aspects here, though, that goes missed, in my opinion, is the evolution. So you got to not only learn your spouse, but you got to be willing to evolve as your spouse evolves.
Oh, you got to keep on learning.
Loving you how you want to be loved today is not loving you. Okay, for example, when you're pregnant, your love needs or love language or however you want to title it is different than it is in new motherhood or now
or before you have kids.
Older kids or before. Yeah, so you have to be willing to do the work to love in every stage in the way that your spouse is receiving love in that stage.
And I think this is all the things that we're talking about today. I know for some people it can feel like a lot, and I hear people saying like, that's not the person that I married. Hey, newsflash, that person's gonna change over and over and over again. And like, I had someone once tell me like, the best thing that I can do as a wife, the best thing that Phillip can do as a husband, is to become a lifelong student of your spouse. And it really resounded with me because I'm like, if you really think about that, like my job as Philip's wife is to become a student of him and the things that he loves and the things that he hates. And as he grows, like my job is to study him and learn him. It kind of hits different when you say it like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can be a student of me.
You know, like let's we're talking about students and teaching. You know, just think about marriage is kind of like that class in college that you had to take, but you didn't really know if you really 100% liked the teacher. But you kind of had to take it. So you're like, man. Then you get in there, you're like, man, this teacher is it's intense. It's a little intense. No, it's a little intense. Oh. It's a little intense. But then you get the test, you're like, okay, the test wasn't as bad as I thought.
Because you studied. You had to.
Yeah. Or you took somebody else's notes and used them. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But no, I definitely think being a student of your spouse is one of the top priorities. Not the top, but one of the top priorities.
Yeah.
For a successful marriage, especially early on. Yeah. Well, no, just period.
Yeah, period. It never stops, and I think a lot of people stop, and then where do you go from there if you stop?
And a lot of people never really start, and then so you get to a point. Anyway, we're just getting down the rabbit hole.
Well, how many versions of me that you've met?
I met a lot because that was the line shapewear version in college. Yep, I'm talking about it. That was the club girdle.
Oh my gosh. No one asked you that much detail.
You asked me a question, so I'll throw it out there.
But no, I'm going to keep changing. I surprise myself sometimes. I'm like, man, I didn't even know I like that or that was important to me.
And like, you really got to be willing to give your stuff a quick story. So Krystin claimed that her favorite ice cream when we got married was like the Neapolitan, where it got chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry in it. So I like ice cream. And so I would get all different kinds of ice cream, namely cookies and cream. She's like murking my cookies and cream. And I'm like, hold on, whoa. Wait a minute. Why are you eating the cookies and cream so fast like that?
I love it.
She's like, this is my favorite ice cream. No. You told me, ma'am, that your favorite ice cream was Neapolitan.
Because exposure, that was what my parents bought, so that's what I ate. I changed. Because you showed me a whole new world. But you changed
to eating my ice cream.
And you had to learn now.
But you had Neapolitan.
Now, when you go to the grocery store, what do you buy?
We don't buy Neapolitan because you obviously didn't like it.
You've learned me, and now you know what I want.
So instead of being frustrated.
This was a beautiful illustration. I don't know if this is what you meant.
It was. That was the goal, to be a beautiful illustration of a very practical way of people, I don't want to say lying, changing, evolving their palates.
Oh my goodness. This is beautiful. So you learned how to love me. You learned that there was a wrong way to love me.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, Phillip. That was great. That was better than I could have planned out on our notes.
These fictitious notes that she's speaking of. All right. So that was number 3. Number 1, procrastination. Number 2, being inconsiderate. Number 3 was
loving your spouse the wrong way.
The wrong way. And now we got number 4, selfishness.
I think that this one can wrap it all up. I think every single one of the other points that we talked about before can be summed up.
Would you say that humans by nature are selfish creatures, though? I mean, babies are selfish creatures, so you come into the world as a selfish creature. I think
that our sin nature it makes us selfish. So I wouldn't say that we're inherently selfish, but we were born in sin. I think that the selfishness, even jealousy, is just part of that sin nature. Mm-hmm. And so I think that self-preservation, where like when you marry this person and you guys become one before God, it would be great if immediately it was like, we're a mesh, we're one. we'll never be distant. We'll never like walk alone anymore. Well, our sin natures are there. So in a perfect world, you know, like we would never have any selfishness in marriage. But I think that we all bring, well, first of all, we all bring our own like learned life experiences and our own like things that we like and we don't like. And like just, we bring them into marriage and it's our job to just put them together when our natural instinct is like survival and like self-preservation. I think self-preservation is just a natural instinct.
Isn't that basically selfishness though? Self-preservation?
Absolutely. So, and I think that's why it's so easy for it to become a habit.
Yeah. So it is our nature to be selfish. You just proved my point.
Depends on which nature. Our God nature doesn't.
No, of course it's not our God nature.
Our sin nature does. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
For sure. And just like our sin nature wants to be selfish, our sin nature wants to be right. Like it's just.
Yeah, that goes and you can't really. Marriage and being
our sin
right.
nature wants to do stuff on our own time. That's procrastination.
Would you say that the selfishness thing kind of falls into that fair word?
I think it can because, like selfishness. I don't even know the real definition. I probably should look that up, but like.
I got you.
You got it. Look up the word selfish and then look up selflessness.
Yes, dear.
But I think like again, just like I think you said the word fair, which of course there's no such thing as fair. Like sometimes marriage it's never 50-50. Some people think like, oh, marriage is 50-50. No, sometimes everybody's putting in 100%. Sometimes somebody's putting in 20%. And the other person got the boulder on their back with that 80%, you know? And so I think that's just what it is.
So the definition of selfish is lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about with being considerate, loving somebody wrong, like the way you'd rather love them the way you'd rather love them versus them wanting to be loved the way they want to be loved.
And then selfless is concerned more with the needs and wishes of others than one's own, unselfish. So I guess it really ties back into the being inconsiderate piece.
Well, I think like that just brings that Bible verse to mind that says, greater love has no one than this, that he laid his life down for a friend. Like I think in marriage.
You sure that's in there? You didn't come across
that was definitely
very
like
strong.
That was definitely a paraphrase.
Okay.
Translation.
Just making sure, folks be saying stuff in the Bible. It don't beat out.
No, it is.
Don't beat out.
And so I think like our ultimate goal in marriage should definitely be to be selfless.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's when like I don't know, the love like that we have for each other can really shine through when we're not seeking to be right or seeking to be bigger or to be better or like seeking our own.
Yeah. Because even the Bible verse to husbands, love your wives is Christ loves the church and gave himself up for her.
Man.
So, I mean, that is literally the definition of selfless based on what we just read.
You know what? You know how we always say, we talk about this a lot, but how it says happy wife, happy life. We're always like, don't necessarily agree with that, but maybe that's...
I think it's true.
Is that what that Bible verse is?
I just tell you that it's not about that, but it is.
Why would you tell me that?
I don't know. It's not healthy. Happy wife, happy life. Of course not. No.
Well, I think that it takes both of us laying down our own desires.
Yeah.
And
it really gets
seeking the best. Like we're both seeking the same goal and never forgetting that. Like we're on the same team. Like what's the point of fighting about that? If
the focus is service, I think that you don't even have to worry about being selfish.
Yeah, that's good.
Like
serving each other.
Yeah, if my goal is to serve you. If my goal is to outserve you, or just serve you, period, above myself, then the selfish thing kind of goes out the window.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I know. Boom. It's all up here too. It's all up here, man. It's a lot going on up there. Well, what else you got, Mom?
That's it. This is just something that was on my mind, and I'm like, I don't know. I think we do stuff and then we do it so often it becomes a habit. You don't even realize you're doing it anymore. So I know that happens to me. So I just want to talk about just checking those bad habits, and seeing how you can just redirect them. Yeah. To seek out a better way to communicate with your spouse and just be better husbands and wives.
Yeah. My encouragement would be to not try to tackle all these things at once. If you got multiple of these things going on,
Wait with it.
you're like, hey, and listen for yourself. I know you're probably elbowing your spouse, like you be doing in church, but listen for yourself. And then I would say take one of these things and focus on. I'm gonna work on hiding the basket. Putting my clothes in the hamper and not next to the hamper.
And sometimes I do it just to annoy her. Which also turns into like rushing. Yeah. Which is another thing that Philip hates.
I'm not rushing. I'm not gonna rush it. No way.
So anyway.
Cool as a cucumber.
So I think this is good. One thing that you can do this week, if there's one thing that you can do to make your marriage better this week, I think it would be to talk to your spouse and ask them like, what's something that you think we could do today to make our marriage better? What's something I could do? Yeah. What's something I could do for you?
Getting dicey there.
Yeah. What's something that I, as your wife, can do for you as my husband to make our marriage better? And you can ask the same thing.
Yeah. You got to pray and fast before you do that, though. Just
be ready for the answer and be open and available to receive what your spouse has to say.
Yeah. And so if any of you guys, have you dealt with any of these? Like drop them down in the comments, or if you feel like there are other habits out there that are keeping people, or if you witnessed that are keeping folks or keeping yourself from the marriage that you desire, we'd love to hear it. As always, if you enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe, share.
All those YouTube things.
All the YouTube stuff. It helps the channel out, and it helps other people get this amazing content as well.
Yep.
So until next time, Phillip and Krystin again from Naptime and Nuptials, where it all goes down when the kids go down. We'll see you guys later. Peace.